Welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Lee. Our guest today is Seabass of WNWS in Jackson, Tennessee. This show originally recorded on Wednesday afternoon. This episode is presented by the Well Coffee House, a Nashville area coffee house that provides fresh roast coffee, along with house-made pastries, breakfast, and lunch offerings. There are 4 locations to serve you in the Nashville area. Those are Brentwood, Green Hills, downtown, and Bellevue. More information can be found at wellcoffeehouse.org. The Well Coffee House, where coffee changes lives. We also thank our co-presenting sponsor, Wellspire, Nashville's Learning and Development Center, which is located in the Gulch. Today's news is sponsored by Sutherland and Belk, a family-owned injury law firm. If you or a loved one has been hurt in any type of accident, call Taylor or Russell at 615-846-6200. See what your rights are and if they can help. Well, the long-awaited baseball season is upon us. Vanderbilt and Michigan play at 6 o'clock Central on Friday night. That game in Scottsdale, Arizona at the Salt River Fields. You can see that on the MLB Network. The guest line, as always, presented by my friends Scott and Missy Tannen at Boll & Branch. I've slept on Boll & Branch products for years and loved them. I did not know what I was missing until I got them. They are fair trade certified, meaning they are made under safe conditions by men and women treated and paid fairly. Try them for a month. You can return them for free, but you won't want to. Once you get the sheets, try the mattress. That was voted the best mattress of 2018. Go to bollandbranch.com. That is spelled B-O-L-L. Enter the promo code Vandy to get $50 off your first set of sheets. Seabass joins us from WNWS in Jackson, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us today.
Man, thank you for having me, Chris. It is truly a pleasure, the honor of my life.
It was a difficult decision, but you did get the Wednesday afternoon podcast spot. So
it was either me or the dude that used to do Snowbird. So.
Well, and he's dead, so it's you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, never. I'm sorry. We interviewed him a couple of years ago.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Bill Hall. Is that who you mean?
No, Snowbird.
Oh,
Snowbird. I knew Bill Hall had passed. I'm talking about the dude that, dressed up like that bird walking around giving the weather report.
I have lots of information on things lately, but not on that one.
Man, yeah, I interviewed him one time. We were doing that stuff in Nashville. Man, I was like, man, I'm sorry. I didn't know.
Did he just give you like hand gestures and stuff, or like mascots do?
No, we were talking to him because he had like lost his job or something. I think they had stopped having Snowbird or stopped having him do Snowbird or whatever, and we had him on that day.
How do you lose your job as Snowbird? What do you do to?
I don't. I don't know. I don't even know if they still use Snowbird. I'm not sure. I just know he wasn't doing it anymore.
How did we get here?
Because at least one of us in this conversation is a little bit unbalanced.
Oh, man. Well, let's rescue this quickly before everyone tunes us out. Where would you like to go?
Oh, well, let me tell you. If you tune us out because you heard somebody say about Snowbird, I'll come find you wherever you live. There you go. Now you go.
Seriously, your choice of topics today.
Basketball.
Let's go.
Basketball. I want to talk about this team, man. I mean, I know I only see one win in that conference win column. Teams are not far away, Chris. I mean, as of right now, not from being like an NCAA tournament team, but I think about the game in Rupp, the game last night, the game against Florida, the game against Auburn, of course, the LSU game. I mean, a month ago, this team and some of the games that we saw, they couldn't tie their shoes. They couldn't get down the court. I know they're not winning them right now, but look, depth's a real issue, and they do have limitations. But dadgum, they're playing hard, Chris. And when they do play hard, they can stack up, for a while with anybody in this conference. It's just the depth ends up getting. I mean, some of the shots don't fall. They're still limited in the post. But I got to tell you, man, this team plays hard for Stackhouse, man. They do. And I think, at least for a first-year coach with everything he's dealing with, there's a lot to like about Coach Stackhouse. And it makes you think if this team can – and again, this is all without Neesmith, good grief. And it makes you think with some of the transfers and Stutes and who knows with Neesmith, I wonder what this team will look like next year, because I think from a coaching standpoint, I think Stack gets it.
Well, Neesmith, I don't think will be here. I need to follow up with that a little bit more. I don't know. I think their ceiling is still limited for next year. Again, it to me is can they progress and can they develop players? And speaking of which, I got to admit, Scottie Pippen has been way better than I thought he'd be.
He's certainly a confident player, and you're right. I mean, he wanted the ball in tough situations, and I like it. I think Scotty's going to be fine. Remembering, let's just pretend like his name's Scotty Smith, and the fact that he is a true freshman. There's a lot to like about this true freshman. He plays with a sense of maturity, and I like that. I mean, he's the kind of guy that I look and I see 2 years from now is leading this basketball team. I like where Scottie Pippen Jr. is at right now for sure, no doubt.
Trying to think of who you would compare him to as a point guard. Nobody really comes to mind. I mean, there's nothing really distinct about him. I mean, he's good at getting to the hole. He shoots foul shots pretty well. He's not a great outside shooter at this point, but.
All right, let me ask you this then. What would you compare him? I'm going to go, I say way back. It's back far enough. But this is a guy who played point guard and played it as a true freshman. Just compare them as true freshman point guards, nothing else. A Tipa Prater.
I could see that. Better offensive player. I was thinking more along the lines of Jermaine Beal, maybe. I know they're different players, and Jermaine was a much better defender, but as an offensive player, because neither of them are great outside shooters, although that I guess Pippen's better at this stage.
What I like about Pippen is he's always looking to get to the basket and looking for somebody to trail him and cut to him and get it to him on a cut, and feed it. But he's but I think he's a pretty heady player. He is. I mean, he's not going to break your ankles, but from time to time he'll flash a move and you say, wow, that's a pretty mature move for a dude who's playing as a true freshman. Yeah, I just went with Prater because I agree with you. The thing about Jermaine Beal, Jermaine was a thick guy. You know what I mean? He was a big, strong dude. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to find a Vandy true freshman point guard comp. What about Russell Lakey as a freshman?
Yeah, maybe Russ wasn't nearly as good a player, not nearly as good. See, that's the thing. I think that Scotty is much more advanced offensively at this stage. Now, look, he also comes in with sort of a built-in advantage in that regard. He had to play a ton of minutes by necessity. That gives you time to develop and showcase skills, whereas all those other guys were walking into better situations. So it's not apples to apples. But what I do like him is I think he's got a very advanced savvy and court sense. Now, his defense, again, that's another issue. But you hope as a freshman to see some signs that there could be a really good player in there, and I see several of them.
Yeah, and see the thing I like. Let me tell you something. This is why I'm bullish and I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Jerry Stackhouse is because I am seeing progression on his players. I mean, think about this. We were just talking about Scotty, but let's look at a couple of other players for a second. Now, one guy who, I mean, yes, the 31 the other night was impressive, but one guy who's been in the lab, he's been working hard. And the truth is there wasn't a whole ton of expectations for Maxwell coming into the season. There was hope that he could, figure some things out. But I mean, as the 31 was where his coming out there deal. But I mean, even like last night, the guy wants the ball right now. And when he gets locked in, he can really do it. And remembering something, Maxwell Evans is not just a three-point shooter. He got hot that night, but Maxwell Evans, you and I both know, can tear the rim down when he needs to. He's looking to be a much more integral part of their offensive game and getting after things. I think he's progressed as a player. Here's another one for you. And look, I've never been the biggest Obina fan, just because I think especially with having a year off, you've just got to. And sometimes you just can't do it, but you've just got to get stronger. And you got to look. You got to put the work in, and sometimes you do, and the work is put in, but you just don't get much bigger. But he's going to have to be stronger because you'll see the times the ball get ripped away from him or get stuffed at the rim and all this other stuff. But I got to He has played much better basketball in the last week or two. Now, he's still inconsistent, but he is improved, and you know that's right. And these people that I'm naming, they're all improving as the season goes on. And I think Stack has a lot to do with that. I mean, I know all the wins aren't piling up, but these players are improving as a unit and as individuals, and I don't really think that's debatable.
The issue next year, or one of, I mean, there's going to be several issues, but one of them is going to be they still don't have a really good shooter, assuming Neesmith is gone. And number two, just the lack of rim protection right now really kills them. Unless Cleavon Brown redshirts and comes back, and he'd be the only one, they just don't have it. So I like the way they're improving, but man, it is still going to be a really long climb for them.
Let's just pretend. Now, what do you think this team would be like? And let's just pretend that for some reason, for some reason, Darius decided not to leave last year and didn't get injured. And Simi, I guess got focused or whatever, because it's not about ability. Simi's got ability. And what if this roster right now had Darius and Simi and Aaron Neesmith, and everybody else that they have right now? Where would you place that team in this conference right now?
It's an NCAA tournament team. It's a top half of the league team. My issue with that team, though, is I don't know how well it defends, because you never saw it out of Chateau. Now, that would free Aaron Neesmith if he's healthy. I don't know if that was part of the equation to become a better defender and maybe exert some more energy on that end of the floor. I think it's an NCAA tournament team. It's a really talented team. I still see some defensive issues, though.
Agreed. And then factor in another guy who's clearly improving, and I think he just needs to keep on playing Kentucky, and that's Dylan Dessou. I mean, think about a unit that had Darius Garland and Aaron Neesmith and Simi Chateau and Dylan Dessou, and you name the five. You play somebody else in there, but I mean that team, right? Good, Chris. That's length. That's a lot of everything right there that never honestly got a chance to materialize, but it just kind of makes you think of what could have been.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really talented team. It's a really talented team. It still doesn't have, well, no, Garland was actually a really great three-point shooter. So Garland and Neesmith, I don't know, that might be a team that's top 25 anyway, probably is, just on talent, can just outscore people.
Yeah, and Dessou, when he gets hot, you've seen what he can do. So I'm telling you, man, it's it didn't work out that way, but I'm just saying I like right now. It's not led to enough wins clearly yet, and I certainly get that. But if you're going to be about player development, then you need to see players developing, and I'm seeing that. And surely you're seeing that too, Chris. There's no way it's just me.
Oh, completely. I've been saying that for a while. Okay, let's go back to your fantasy world for a second, okay?
All right.
And let's compose the lineup. You go Garland 1, Lee at 2, Neesmith at 3. You could go Chateau at 4. Okay, let's give you a real fantasy lineup here. Let's say you can bring Yanni Wetzel back. Put him at the 5. You can back up Garland with Pippen. You can back up Wetzel with Brown if he's healthy. You can throw the Sioux on the wing at the 3. Now, you might have to shave off a couple of guys because getting all these guys back. So this may fall apart as we do it, but it's interesting just because. You could put Obina at the 4 or the 5. You could, I guess, put Brown at the 4, Obina at the 5, or whatever. And really still, I guess you put Evans at the 2. Is your 9th or 10th guy off the bench. Yeah, that's a really talented lineup. Again, I don't know how well it can defend, and that's where Stackhouse probably comes in. You might get Chateau engaged on that end of the floor. He's one more year removed from the surgery at that point, so That's a really talented team.
Oh, man, when I think about the basketball that we didn't get to see, of people who were, and these, it's not like we're talking about if Vanderbilt could have got them. These are all people who were there at one point in the last, in a little over a calendar year. And I guess it just wasn't meant to be. But, we talk about the low levels that this program is sank to. It almost just didn't have to be that way, and unfortunately, it fell that way. And it's incumbent upon Jerry and his staff to build things back up. And I think that they can. It's not a 1 year fix by any stretch of the imagination, but the improvements that I'm seeing out of these players and what he's getting out of them, and the fact that as hard as it's been, they're not getting. I mean, does that team even remotely look like it's given up to you? That it's just out there going through the motions? Because it doesn't take. And losing sucks, and people get tired of it, and they're still losing. That's still a one-win conference team, but they go out there as if they've got everything to play for. And last night was what it was. But I got to tell you, from an excitement standpoint, the first 20 minutes especially, but 30 minutes of basketball, we could play with anybody, and it looked great, and it was fun. We're just not there yet. We don't have the depth. We don't have the horses yet for 40 minutes, night in and night out, especially against a team like that. But watching basketball the last couple of weeks has been fun again. Even when they lost at Mississippi State, when they would get down, they were never out of it because they kept on coming. They kept believing, and you don't generally find that out of a team who's 1-9 in conference at that point. They're just going through the motions at that point. But this team's not doing that. And I think that's a direct reflection of their head basketball coach.
Does any athletic program over the last 3 years have a wider range of the what-ifs than Vanderbilt?
No. Than Vanderbilt basketball? No.
No, than everything. Because let's go back a minute, okay?
What if with me on football?
All of it. Maybe the last 4 years, okay? Right. You have baseball, you have Donnie Everett. That's the biggest what if ever for that program. You have all the basketball stuff we've talked about. You have the AD thing. What if they just go get any number of Power 5 ADs that would have listened to them? I mean, the range of outcomes, and it's just been crazy. There's been an incredible amount of bad decisions and an incredible amount of bad luck. And if you could just go over and do all this in an alternate universe, I wonder how it would have looked.
A lot better than it does, but I kind of tend to focus more on the self-imposed stuff, like ADs and stuff like that. I mean, that kind of is that's your own fault, those type of things. But stuff like the Darius deal, and Aaron, and stuff like that. I mean, who has that type of luck? That's a lottery pick and a guy who could be one potentially, playing a total of about 10 games, and just taking the life out of a team before they even get things going in a season. I mean, Darius Garland was supposed to be, I don't know if it's fair or not, the savior of Vanderbilt basketball, and probably could have done it too. And we're 4 games in, and some stupid nothing play in the beginning of a game, game 5, I think it was 4 or 5, and he never puts on a uniform again.
Well, and
that sucks. That's bad luck. Things like hires and ADs and stuff like that, that's doing it to yourself. I can't lump that in there because that's on them.
If you want to go further, back up to when Bryce is running players off to get those guys. And that ruins morale. I mean, Fisher Davis, they lose him, in January of his senior year? But yeah. I think by that point, and they did win 5 games in the league. You had Roberson played well. You had Riley the Chance. So you had some guys that were really going at it. But, man, that's another one, too, that – and, again, that falls under the category of self-destruction. The year before the Cornette injury, all that change was maybe some regular season wins because in the end, it allowed other guys to play, and he was healthy, and they peaked around tournament time. So I don't know that changes the outcome much. Maybe a seed line or two in that tournament, but man, it's just crazy to think about.
Next year, I'll be interested to see what happens. Look, I don't anticipate Aaron coming back. I don't. I know that, but I'm interested. I'm interested to see this team with the pieces that it has now. Another year in, I'm interested to see what it looks like with DJ Harvey. What kind of role he has next year. I saw on social media today where he tweeted about that. The upcoming tournament next year that features. Help me out, Chris. Vanderbilt, UConn, Notre Dame, and USC. I think it is.
I think that's correct.
Yeah, and him talking about that and wanting the opportunity to showcase and show out against his former team. I think DJ Harvey is a very important part of the plans for next year. I think it's going to be a huge factor on this basketball team.
Let's switch gears. How excited are you for the start of baseball?
I mean, like I told you, Chris, I like it a lot. I like to watch it. I pull for our guys all the time. If they're on, I'm going to watch the game. But college baseball is just not my thing. I love Major League Baseball. I've just never really gotten into college baseball. But I'm always going to pull for us. But the passion, the happiness, the anger that is invoked by football and to a little bit lesser extent basketball is not there for me. And so, I get it for you guys that love it, and it's the one good thing that we do, and we do it better than everybody else. And I'm very happy about that. But it doesn't do for me, not even remotely close to what it does for you.
You're into it postseason. That's about it, isn't it?
No, I know. Seriously. I will watch it during the regular season when it's on here. I'm always following what we do. If the game's not on TV, I'll follow online and see how we're doing. It doesn't look. Vanderbilt gets beat 24-10 in football. I can't watch, like an SEC Now or a Sports Center or whatever for a little while. I need my time. Vanderbilt loses 3-2 in the ninth inning. I'm gonna be just fine. Vanderbilt lost last night. It sucked. I hated it. I wanted to win bad. I wanted to shut Kentucky fan up, and it bugged me. But I'm a little better today. But if the baseball team loses, it sucks. I'm pulling for them, but it's not going to really bother me now. If you just want me to be truthful about it, no.
Well, that's what we're about here. Let's do the mailbag.
And it doesn't make me any less of a Vanderbilt fan. I love it. I'm just not into college baseball the way a lot of Vanderbilt fans are. And, Lord knows I should be, because if I was, then I could be happy again and start smiling, and Vanderbilt athletics would make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. I just wish for the fan base, because it's gone through so much, that more people, and I think most people are into baseball now, but I just wish for people like you that you were into it more.
But I am into baseball. I'm just not into college baseball. But see, the truth is, if look, I don't want anybody not to love it. But if we're truthful, at the end of the day, it's about football and basketball, but especially football. And until that is fixed, it's great to us and it matters to us and all that. But in the grand scheme of things, and until we fix football, we're just, it's just going to be what it is. We are, unless you're someone like Kentucky, you are measured by your football program, and you know what that is. So I like college baseball. Don't love it.
I had a booster text me this week, and I don't have the text in front of me, but I think he said, I would trade everything in baseball to get to the Final Four or to the college football playoff once.
In a minute. I wouldn't even blink. And you would say, how could you say that? Because they matter so much more to me. And in the grand scheme of things, they matter so much more in college sports. But that doesn't mean I don't care and I'm not happy about Vanderbilt baseball and how dominant it is, and I want it to stay that way. But, that booster you talked to is 100% right.
Yeah, I mean, I
I'd
think,
trade it, and I would not even blink. I would trade it and not even worry about explaining myself.
shall we do the mailbag? Because I've got maybe
Yeah.
10, 12 minutes left. Okay, our mailbag
Okay.
is
Sure.
sponsored by Vanderbilt Fan and independent insurance agent Josh Minton of Brentwood. Do you need an insurance agent who wants to know your unique needs and circumstances and will tailor an insurance plan to fit them? Josh is your guy. Call him 615 933 1979. Email him at josh at hqinsurance.com. Follow him at facebook.com/JD Minton HQ. He is my agent. Give him a shot. I think you'll be pleased. Mr. Vandy says, what did you think about the departure of Malcolm Turner?
Such a simple question, yet so complex, right, Chris?
And more
Boy,
complex, the more I dig into it. I'll just say I think the Monday morning thoughts next week will be very interesting once again.
right. All I'll say is it's like taking a big fat bite out of an onion. There's 4 billion layers here, I mean, and honestly, I mean, I don't know how to feel about it because I don't know where the culpability for Malcolm Turner ends and the culpability for Vanderbilt begins.
Well,
And we're learning more and more because of people like Chris and finding out and the digging and the information. I mean, is there fault on both ends? Yeah, I'm sure there is. And then if you wanted to make the argument he never should have been hired in the first place, you can do that too. How do I feel about it personally? If some of the things that Chris has said are true, I'm disappointed in him. And some of the things that he said are true, then I'm disappointed for Vanderbilt and putting him in that situation. So, I think it sucked, but I will say this, and without reservation, if our only answer is we're just going to plug in, Candace Story Lee, and then just that's the way it's going to be, and that's nothing against her. She's a brilliant woman, and certainly has put the work in. There's no doubt about it. But if this university is at all serious, at all, it will conduct a real, legitimate, and thorough search for its next athletic director. And you know what? Hey, if that's her, that's great. But it's like I said to you, Chris, I think maybe not just off the mic conversation, or maybe it was on the board. My question was, okay, if she was Malcolm Turner's right-hand man and she learned from David Williams, but especially the first part, she was right there with Malcolm Turner, then she absolutely 100% had to know what was going on. Generally, when somebody is a part of situations like that, they don't get rewarded, they get fired. So I'm trying to figure out what's real here. I mean, because if she was on the inner sanctum right there with Malcolm, then she clearly knew what was going on. You fire one and give the other his job. I don't, unless that's what you were bucking for the whole time and had your own way about going to do that, which if that's the case, that's even more underhanded. And I'm going to have a problem with that too, but again, this is not about Candace Story Lee. I mean, if you do a thorough search and interviews and she is truly the best for the job, then I'll be the first person to shake her hand and say, go get them. But I mean, I don't know that that's the case. So, I mean, I don't know how to feel about Malcolm Turner right now in that whole situation.
Yeah, I think if they really want to get to the bottom of this, they can. I just wonder how much they do. I guess we'll see. I think I lost you.
No, I'm waiting on you to talk.
Did you not hear what I said?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let's do the next question.
All right.
From Ann Arbor, what's your projected range of Vanderbilt football wins next year? So let's do this. I'm going to pull up the schedule. And while I'm doing that, I will let you answer this next one from Ann Arbor. Projected percentage of snaps played for the running backs on the depth chart. While you're doing that, I will pull the schedule out, which I meant to do ahead of time and did not. And we will tackle the first one, but I'll let you tackle the second one first.
Okay, so we're looking at what? Let's do this. Let's establish who this depth chart is. I mean, I think we would probably both agree that Keon Brooks is the starting, at least going into the spring, the starting running back. Then you've got to take a look at Jamari Wakefield, who again had one carry last year and missed the rest of the season. So I don't know if you have any insight as to where he is recovery-wise and if he's going to be 100% ready to go. Javion Marlowe, J.R. Tranrino, I guess. Am I leaving anybody out there, Chris? Does that sound like before? Well, of course, what's the young man's name that they just signed from Georgia?
Rocco Griffin?
Yeah, Rocco Griffin. Yeah, real fast kid. Got some wheels, no doubt about it. Maybe has a chance to hit the field early. Those are some explosive running backs, but I mean, there's very little experience right there. So if we're, first of all, did I leave anybody off that we think is going to get snaps?
I was mostly listening, but also trying to concentrate on getting the football schedule up. I heard you. Nobody comes to mind that you left off. Did you say Wakefield?
Okay, so yeah,
Okay.
I mentioned Wakefield, but like I said, he only had one carry last year. Ended an injury, ended the rest of his season. And in fact, I asked you if you had any insight as to whether he's ready for spring or ready for this, be ready by the start of the season, or what the situation is with that. Do you happen to know?
No, I don't. I've been bogged down
Okay.
with all this other stuff.
Right. Okay. So at the end of the day, in no particular order, Brooks, Wakefield, Marlowe, Tranrino, and Griffin. Sound right to you?
Yeah.
I don't know that there's anybody on that list right there that I see getting 20 carries a game. You know, I think from that list right there, just assuming all those people are healthy, and who knows, maybe Griffin red shirts, who knows. From that list, I see a rotation. I see a platoon, you know, and maybe going with a hot hand. Of course, we got a brand new offensive coordinator, you know, and that could change some things. So we'll see. As far as, I still think that Brooks has got to be the catalyst of it all, at the head of it. I'm thinking 15 carries a game for him, you know, and then maybe another 15 carries in between the rest of the rotation right now. Just because, look, if Jamari Wakefield comes back healthy, that could change some things. But right now I'm going to say Keon Brooks is the lead dog with 15, and then break up another 15 among the other four. What do you think?
Yeah, that works for me. I have a lot of questions to be answered, two of which are the health of Marlowe and Wakefield. And so it's just, to me, that's a big incomplete right now.
So has that been the issue in your mind with Javion Marlowe, is the health? Because it seems like we just never – they just didn't play.
I mean, that's some of it, but you can never rule out stubbornness and offensive incompetence either.
In fact, you can almost count on it.
You can almost count on it. You might think that after watching last year. But
for sure.
Hey, let's get to the schedule. Then I've got to go. I've got to take my son somewhere. Let's do it this way, okay? I'm going to name the opponent and the location. You give me the probability of victory that Vanderbilt wins the game. I will write that down, and we'll do a running total of probability. So, like, if you say 90%, that's going to go down as like a 0.9 of a win, and we'll do it that way. How's that?
I'm in. Let's roll. Yeah,
okay.
Let's roll.
Mercer.
90%.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to go to. So, at Missouri. What if here's the other thing. I am not in a great spot at knowing what everybody has coming back.
You know,
may know
more
than I do.
You know, I mean, well, one, you got a brand new coach, but I mean, the wheels kind of came off there. You know, that's going to be somebody's first SEC start as a quarterback. You know.
Yeah.
Uh, I can't make it 50-50. I don't think that's the case. And you said that's at Missouri.
Yeah.
Let me go with 35. I'm going to go 35%.
Okay, I'm going to go 25. So
Okay.
you are at 1.25. I'm at 1.15 at Kansas State.
Okay. Now, in the interest of fairness, let's rotate a little bit instead of me going first every time.
Okay, I will go first. I'll
So,
go 15%. So I'm at 1.3 through 3 games.
okay. Yeah, I'm not far off. I'm going to go with 20.
Colorado State. That is in Nashville, by the
I'm
way. They do go to Fort Collins, I think, in 2021 or maybe 22.
Boy, did I learn my lesson with UNLV? Look, Vanderbilt's going to be the favorite team here. How about this? How about a very sexy 70%?
Okay, I'm going to go 60. So you
Okay.
are at 2.15. I'm at 1.9. Ole Miss. That'll be in Nashville. Is it my turn to go first?
Yes.
I'll go 0.25. I just remember how Ole Miss just manhandled Vanderbilt down there.
Man. And this, where'd you say this game was in Nashville?
Yes.
Boy. Yeah, I mean, remembering also the Vanderbilt returns their entire defense. And I think they have upgraded at coach and on their coaching staff almost in every position. And we talk about losing the big three, but we didn't have the big three last year. We had the big one. Is that a fair statement? Not that was Kalijah's or Jared's fault. It wasn't. Not talking about them, but at the end of the day, they weren't a factor because they weren't allowed to be, basically. So I say we're losing the big one, and that's going to be tough. It's going to be hurt. It's going to be hard. But, I mean, Ole Miss has its issues too, Chris. Oh, man, I know who they hired. I'm well aware of that. But they've still got some issues as well. I'm gonna say it's a little better than you think it is. And I'm going to get this game closer to 50%, and I'm going to sit somewhere around 40%. I think that's a winnable football game.
Okay, you are at 2.55. I'm at 2.15. We got to hurry through these because I've got to run. Kentucky, what do you say?
Kentucky, the game is
At Kentucky.
It's at Kentucky. I don't like it. I'll go 25.
I'm going to go 20. South Carolina here.
Man, all you had to do was say South Carolina, 1%, because we just don't beat them.
I'm going to give you 0.05 on that. I'm going to go 20. Florida here.
We tend to play them pretty tough. I'm gonna also, even though I don't expect it, because Florida's just going to get better and better under Dan Mullen. I'm going to sit at 20% on that one. I was kidding about the South Carolina thing.
Yeah, I gave you 0.05 on that.
I'll take it.
You're going to go 20. I'm going to go 10.
Yeah.
So you're at 3.05. I'm at 2.65. Louisiana Tech.
Well, our OC should be pretty familiar with them. They lose some key components off that team. They're still dangerous, but we're still the better team overall. I'm going to say 60.
I'm going to go 45.
You think Tech's
I think
the better team?
I think they're the better team. I also think it's late in the season and the losses are piling up. And the coaches.
Well, I would remind you that Vanderbilt, Missouri, late in the season.
Not that late. The coach's future is also being talked about at this point. So you got that. So you are at, you said how much?
For the Tech game, 60.
60. Okay. 3.65. Okay. I'm at 3.1. Tennessee.
That's in Nashville this year, right?
Correct.
Man, he's starting to put it together, man. And a lot of that's going to be contention. I mean, is Harrison Bailey pulling the trigger? But if he is, I mean, he's got Eric Gray behind him and a well-constructed offensive line that that should dominate that game. As sick at my stomach as it makes me, they're clearly the favorite in that game. I'll put it at 35.
Okay, you end up at 4.0 on the nose. I go 20%. I'm at 3.3.
Okay. Do you consider that to be a big disparagement between us?
No, I mean, we both think it's a 3 to 4 win team, which is, I'm guessing if we didn't do this exercise, we probably would have said 2 to 4 wins, maybe 5 if everything goes crazy. So I don't think either of us are surprised. And with that, I've got to run.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hey, Noah, tell people where they can find your show and your Twitter handle before I do.
Yeah, you can find me on 101.5 in Jackson, Tennessee, and at Cheap Seats Bass on Twitter.
He's Seabass. I'm Chris Lee. Thank you for listening to the Vandy Sports Podcast.